So fun fact, about 60% of the audience here has a portfolio value of less than $100,000, and I'm in that same boat, by the way. I have yet to hit the $100,000 mark in my portfolio, and as investors, reaching that first 100K is one of the toughest milestones, which begs a couple questions. Number one, why is the first $100,000 so difficult to get to? And number two, how long does it take to get there? We'll try to answer both of those questions in this video, and we'll explore a few scenarios that should help give you an idea as to how long reaching that first $100,000 in your portfolio might take, especially if you're just starting from scratch as a brand new investor. Now, I remember when I first started investing, I felt like $100,000 was totally out of reach. In my mind, it was such a large number. I mean, I'd never had that amount of money before. I'd never made that amount of money before. So the thought of someday having six figures in my portfolio was a hard thing to wrap my head around. With that said, though, I also knew that reaching a point where I had $100,000 invested was going to be an inevitable thing. As long as I stayed consistent and kept contributing to my portfolio and just stayed patient, it was bound to happen at some point. Now, exactly when that would happen, that I wasn't so sure about, but I've got to say, over these last few years that I've been investing, the portfolio's really come a long way, and I'm pretty happy with the progress. I was about 25 or 26 years old when I started taking investing seriously, and when I started posting videos here on YouTube back in October 2020, I already had about $15,000 saved up. And if we take a look at my portfolio today over here on my dividend portfolio tracking spreadsheet, which you can start using for free, there is a link to download the spreadsheet in the description of the video. But anyway, here we can see my portfolio is now sitting at just under $70,000. It was over $70,000, but I'm seeing a bit of a loss today. And at this time, this portfolio is generating almost $2,700 of dividend income every single year. So like I said, we've come a long way, but the great majority of the growth has come from my own deposits into the portfolio. And in this time period, I contributed about $38,500, while my investment gains, between share price appreciation and dividends, are coming in at about $13,000. And that's just my main account on Charles Schwab. And my Roth IRA, which makes up about $10,000 of my total portfolio, I contributed just over $9,000 of that value. So the great majority of that as well is clearly not coming from investment gains either. The point is that in terms of reaching the six-figure mark, the deposits to the portfolio have contributed much more to that progress than have the investment returns so far. And that's just how it goes. But that's what makes reaching the first $100,000 such a difficult milestone. Because of the portfolio size, the compound interest isn't yet at a point where it can make a huge impact on your portfolio value. So most of the heavy lifting in those initial stages is done by you and your contributions. And so the more you're able to contribute, the faster you'll be able to reach that six-figure mark. Speaking personally, I'm investing $230 every single week across my two accounts, which is a good chunk of change. And if I just keep investing at this same rate, I should hopefully reach $100,000 sometime in the next 2 years or so, which means it will have taken me about 6.5 years or so in total to reach that first $100,000, which sounds like a long time. But with that said, it's important to keep in mind that I didn't start out contributing the amount that I do today. It wasn't even close. At the beginning, I was maybe investing like $25 per week into my portfolio, and I did that for quite a while. But between then and now, I've worked really hard on being able to increase the amount that I'm able to invest. And there are two different levers that you can pull to do this. You can either increase your income or you can reduce your spending, or preferably you can do a combination of the two. For most people, figuring out where you can cut back on some expenses is probably a more immediate way to unlock more money to invest into your portfolio. And the best way to do that is through budgeting. And on that note, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite budgeting platforms and the sponsor of today's video, Squad. As investors, we are constantly looking for more money to contribute to our portfolios. And the best way to do so and to see where all of your money is going is through budgeting. Everyone should be budgeting. The problem, though, is that most budgeting apps these days make you give up your bank login credentials in order to sync your transactions. And while this does make things convenient, giving up this information comes with some pretty serious risks. By providing your bank login credentials to these third-party apps, you're giving them access to some pretty sensitive financial data, including your account number, routing number, full name, address, and you even give them the ability to initiate transfers, which is kind of sketchy. But this isn't the case with Squad. Squad prioritizes your privacy and security and is is unlike any other money tracking platform I've used, in the sense that it allows you to automatically sync all your transactions without making you give up your bank login credentials. Instead, all you need to do is set up your spending and deposit alerts from your bank or credit card provider to the Squad Scan email address you receive upon signing up. And then from there, Squad instantly converts these alerts into categorized transactions in the app. All in all, guys, it took me maybe 2 minutes to get everything set up, and that includes uploading all of my old transactions, which you can download from your online banking app and send to your Squad email address. It's super easy. With Squad, there's no ads and there's no concerns over the safety of your data, because you're not giving them any of your sensitive data, which is the best part. So overall, if you're looking for a better budgeting platform, I highly recommend you check out Squad, which you can actually do for free. Click the link in the description of the video or in the pinned comment to get a free 15-day trial. And if you like it, their Duo plan is only $11 per year, which is an absolute steal. Not only that, but you can also take 15% off of the already extremely generous subscription price by using code Ryne15 when you check out. I've personally really enjoyed using Squad, and I think you will too, so definitely check out that free 15-day trial in the description or in the pinned comment and join the Squad today. Anyway, guys, getting back to it, let's take a look at a few examples to see how long it might take you to reach $100,000 if you're someone who is just starting out, if you're someone who is starting from scratch with investing. And for our demonstration here, we're going to be using a very simple, straightforward, hands-off portfolio. We've got 50% of it in SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, and the other 50% in VU, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. And if you're someone who is just kind of getting started with investing, I think something like this would be a really great portfolio to consider rocking with from the beginning. It's going to give you the best of both worlds. You've got that S&P 500 exposure, which is great. And you've also got some exposure to some really great dividend growth stocks. SCHD is like the holy grail of dividend ETFs. So a 50-50 split between those two funds, I think, is a really great place to start, or at least consider starting if you're someone who is just getting into investing. And actually, this exact setup here, more or less, is what I use in my Roth IRA. My Roth IRA is just SCHD and VU. I've got a 60-40 split, but it's more or less the same idea. But anyway, looking at some of the stats in this portfolio, with a 50-50 split between these two funds, that's going to leave us with an overall dividend yield of about 2.4%, which is respectable, and an overall 5-year dividend growth rate across the portfolio of 8.25%. So I think these are pretty great looking dividend stats. Now we're going to plug this all into the dividend reinvestment calculator, which you can use for free at dividendreinvestmentcalculator.com. I highly recommend you guys check it out. But these are going to be all of our inputs right here. So we're going to start with an initial investment of $100. Okay, so basically starting from scratch, we're going to assume a $25 per week contribution, which I think should be pretty doable for someone who's just getting into investing. And like I said earlier, when I started investing, this was about how much I was contributing every single week. So I think this is a pretty good starting point for a brand new investor. And then last but not least, looking at this top row up here, these are going to be our dividend stats. So we've got our dividend yield of about 2.4% plugged in there. Our dividend growth rate in the portfolio was 8.25%, but we're going to be a little bit more conservative and assume an 8% dividend growth rate in this time period, as well as an 8% share price appreciation in the portfolio. But anyway, looking at the results, guys, with this setup, we can see as the years go on, it's going to take us quite some time to reach $100,000 in this portfolio. And we actually won't hit that mark until the end of year 22, where we'll be left with $100,452. So it's going to take quite some time. If you're only investing $25 per week, it's going to take a long time to hit the 6-figure mark in the portfolio. Now, like we established earlier, the thing about hitting this first $100,000 is that the rate at which you get there is going to be highly dependent on how much you're contributing to your portfolio. So in this stage, really, the more that you're able to contribute, the faster that you'll be able to hit that first 6 figures. So let's take a look at a few more examples, increasing the contributions, and see kind of what the timeline looks like there. So next up, we're going to look at this with a $50 per week contribution. So we're going to double that up there, and we can see that if we go over to the results, we won't hit $100,000 until year 17. So we're able to shave about 5 years. Actually, it's going to be between year 16 and year 17, excuse me. But either way, we were able to shave about 5 years off the timeline by doubling the contributions. But still, getting that first 6 figures in 17 years, it's quite a long time. So with that, let's double the contributions one more time and see how long it might take us if we're contributing $100 every single week. So now we're really getting up there with those contributions. And if we go over to the results, we can see that we'll hit $100,000 in 11 years. So this is starting to look a bit better. We went from 22 down to 16 or 17, and now we're at 11 years. So I don't think that's too shabby, but let's double this one more time and see where we'll be left by investing $200 every single week, which is a pretty big chunk of change. Going over to the results here, it looks like we will hit $100,000 in this portfolio within about 7 years. After year 7, you'll have $102,140 in the account, which actually is not really that different from how long it's actually going to take me in my own portfolio to hit $100,000. And just for fun, if we kept this going, guys, and just kept investing that amount over the next couple of decades, by the end of year 30, starting with $100, investing $200 every single week, after that 30th year, things start to look really good. You'll have almost $1.9 million in this account. But anyway, now that we figured out how long it might take you to reach the first $100,000 in your portfolio, what about financial freedom? How long will it take you to reach a point where you can finally live off your dividend income? Well, that's what we're talking about in this next video right over here. In this one, I'm going to show you how to calculate exactly how much you'll need to have invested in order to live off your dividend income. So click right over here to check that out, and I'll see you in the next one.